and it exceeded my expectations. I thought this was going to be a fight that was all about the promotion, and this was going to be something when you got to fight night, it was going to be disappointing. Well, it was not disappointing. It happened to be a very fun and exciting and entertaining fight. Someone that loves boxing and covers it for the Queensberry Rules is Steve Zemach, who joined us a few weeks ago when we were talking about this fight, and he's kind enough to hop on board with us right now. Stevie, appreciate a few minutes. Thanks for the time, and how are you?
I'm doing well, Zach. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much. So, do you agree with me? This fight was better than what we expected?
Oh, absolutely. This was a win for Floyd Mayweather, obviously, but a win for boxing and a win for UFC also. It was exceeded all expectations. And honestly, when's the last time you woke up on a Sunday morning and you didn't feel pissed off and aggravated that you spent $80 on a Floyd Mayweather fight?
You're exactly right, because after the Pacquiao fight, I was in an irate mood, and it was just a total waste of money, and it was ridiculous. And this one, not only did I thought my money was well worth it, but even after the fight, you just had to stay tuned, and you had to flip over to ESPN and watch all the post-fight coverage, because I wanted more of this fight, really. I thought this fight was sensational, it was fun, and it was entertaining, and even afterwards, the coverage of the fight, McGregor was very honest. I thought McGregor was very good in the post-fight, and I thought Floyd Mayweather did a nice job as well after the fight ended.
That's a great point, too, because everyone was still on Twitter into the fight, and it was 2 a.m., it was 2:30, it was 3 a.m., Sports Center. That's the only thing they were talking about. So that's a great point, and I haven't really heard that anywhere else, that, yeah, you kind of wanted more of this fight. Even though we got 10 good rounds, you were still hungry. Heck, we'd all probably sign up for a rematch right now.
Yeah, we would. I don't know if they would sign up for a rematch. Well, actually, with the way the money went, I think they would definitely sign up for a rematch, but I don't know if that's going to happen. On that topic, do you think Floyd Mayweather is finally done? He says he's done. Do you believe him?
Yeah, I think I do this time. He was off for roughly 2 years. He looked like fatherhood had finally caught up with him. His feet looked a little slow. He looked a little flat-footed, and I just don't know why he would come back unless he really needed the money. I mean, he's 50-0. He's got that record exceeding Rocky Marciano. I don't see him back in the ring. I just don't see it happening.
See, the boxing fan is an interesting one, and there's some people that could admit, oh, they thought this fight was going to be a farce, and it turned into not being one. When you talk to people in the boxing community over the last few days, their thoughts going into this fight were what, and what did they think after the fight?
Yeah, thoughts going in was it was going to be a farce. It was going to be a joke. He came to the ring, if you remember, Floyd in that mask, and I remember the jokes were starting already. Oh, look, he's a robber. He's already robbed your $100. But as soon as that fight started, everybody shut up. I mean, first round, all right, Floyd lets you figure him out. But when Conor landed that uppercut, I think it got everyone's attention, and everyone kind of, edged to the corner of the couch there and was kind of hanging on and saying, all right, this could be a little interesting. And once we were into the fight, it was, is Conor going to gas? Is Floyd going to knock him out? Both ended up happening, but no, you're absolutely right. This was specifically boxing fans that were annoyed that, people from the outside were coming in to cover their sport, and they thought, Floyd's making a joke of it, Conor's making a joke of it. But in the end, boxing really won for the first time in a long time. In recent memory, when you think of a pay-per-view fight of this caliber, it's been a long time since Sunday morning, as I said. People woke up with a smile on their face and said, hey, I didn't mind blowing $100 on Mayweather and McGregor, and I never thought I would hear those words.
What does this type of fight do for the future of boxing?
I hope it grows some new fans. I know there were fight fans, kind of as you described yourself. If you're home on a Saturday, you'll buy the fight, you'll check it out. But hopefully it'll push people to, maybe set their DVR for HBO and Showtime fights going forward. There's a big fight coming up September 16th, Gennady Golovkin and Canelo Alvarez, and I'm curious to see what the pay-per-view buys are for that fight. Is it going to push people into purchasing the fight, or a few weeks later have people forgotten about it? Time will tell, but I really hope that Top Rank and ESPN quietly made a deal Thursday that's going to put some very good fighters on cable TV, on ESPN and ESPN2, so that can only bode well for the future.
When do you think the next time we'll see a UFC guy going from UFC to boxing? When do you think we'll see that next?
That's a great question. And
because a lot of UFC people I talk to, and we've had some of those fighters on, they say that they're willing to do that, obviously, because of the money, and they think they could do it as well.
I was just going to say, the money factor alone, you look at some of these guys, I'm not even, take pay-per-view out of the picture. Just look at a regular HBO Saturday night card. These guys are making between $1 and $3 million if you're the A side. If you're the B side, you're still making close to $750. That's up $750,000. That's kind of the average of what Conor was making on these UFC pay-per-views. So if you got some boxing background, why not jump into the ring against maybe not a Floyd Mayweather, maybe not the best fighter of our era, but someone in the top 10, a contender that'll grab some headlines. I could definitely see it happening, and as you pointed out, it's all because of the money.
Talking to Steve Zemach right now on the Zach Gelb Show. All right, let's get into some specifics from the fight. In the 8th round, there's a lot of argument on the rabbit punching, and there was that big argument on Showtime. Was Floyd turning around, or was it actually rabbit punching? What did you make of that?
Yeah, we heard Paulie Malignaggi and Al Bernstein get a little feisty there.
That was entertaining, too.
It absolutely was. Conor would pivot behind Floyd. And I don't know if that was natural instinct into UFC because, as you mentioned, we all watched some of the post-fight interviews, and Conor was saying, I was behind him. If it was a real fight, I would have taken him out. And obviously it wasn't, in his words, a real fight, assuming, he's talking mixed martial arts. But, yeah, he was pivoting around, but then Floyd would almost make it seem worse by ducking his head under. So it was a little bit of both. I would have to say Conor would start it by pivoting behind, and then Floyd would kind of feed into it.
And then when we move forward into the 9th round, and this is where I need your expertise, Floyd gets pinned into the corner, and McGregor looks like he's gaining the momentum back, and then the referee stepped in, and you had a big-time delay before you resumed the fight. What was going on in that sequence?
It's tough to tell when they're in there, if they're banging heads, banging elbows, whatnot. I mean, a lot of the night, Conor would... I think it was natural instinct, the rabbit punches, he was getting under Floyd's skin. There was one point at the end, I believe it was the 7th round, where the round was over and Floyd gave him a push, and I said, this is not usually the poised Floyd Mayweather we see. I think he found a way to get under his skin, and I think as the fight progressed, Floyd was looking to the ref. Floyd was looking to the ref to help him out and to, separate them and lay the rules out, and that's just, I think we saw a frustrated fighter in the middle rounds, and Floyd said it himself. He said, I thought this fight would be over in about the 5th, 6th, 7th round. It wasn't because it took longer for Floyd to figure Conor out, and it took time for Conor to tire, and then he did get that second wind and maybe even third wind. Even in the 9th round, as you just pointed out, was probably his third wind of the fight. But I don't know exactly what it was, but Floyd was definitely frustrated in there, and he didn't look like the same fighter. It didn't look like Floyd Mayweather of old.
And to me, the turning point was when Floyd started to get aggressive, because if this was just something where you saw Floyd just wear down McGregor and this thing ends in the 7th round or the 8th round and you didn't really see big punches from Floyd, we have a different tune talking about this fight. So the aggressiveness from Mayweather was something very refreshing and nice to see.
No, absolutely was, and it reminds you of the young Floyd Mayweather, the lightweight, the featherweight, the guy that would come forward and land combinations or just clean punches, and then he would duck away from your punch. You couldn't hit the guy, and then he'd land 3 or 4 punches, and that's kind of what we saw later on. It definitely reminded me of a young Floyd Mayweather, maybe a hungry Floyd Mayweather. Instead of just cruising to the decision, he did want to go for the knockout, and now Conor was obviously tiring as the fight went on, but he did push for the knockout, and some say he probably could have got it in the 8th round, maybe the 9th round if he had really pushed. But, again, this is a guy that suffers from hand problems his whole career, especially later in his career. And I think he waited till the time was right, and he knew, I land a couple punches, I'm going to put this guy out. And that was basically the 10th round. I think if the ref had let that continue, Conor probably would have been – he probably would have been knocked out. And the thing is, the people that jumped on this and said the stoppage was too soon –
yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
In boxing, you can't let the opponent land clean shots without covering up or punching back. And there was a sequence there at the end where Conor was just kind of falling backwards, didn't have his hands up, And at that point, you give the ref really no option but to step in. Was I annoyed it was stopped? Sure, of course I was. I wanted to see it go on for another 10, 15 seconds. But when you're not protecting yourself, refs got to step in and make a call. And when you're in the middle of that, at that split second, it's a tough decision to make. I don't fault the ref.
I thought the ref made the right call. Now, in the moment, I was with you. I was saying, oh, how do you stop that? But when you go back and watch it, it was the correct call. And as truthful as I thought McGregor was in the postgame press conferences and all that after the fight, I will say this. If he was, the one thing I thought he was lying about was that he's annoyed with the decision to stop the fight, because if you see it at the time when it happens, he doesn't protest it. He could have added on to the theatrics and really gone off on the ref inside the ring, but he didn't elect to do that.
That's a great point.
I think he had enough, really, Steve. I think he had enough. He was tired. He showed it, and I thought he was okay with the decision. But you know it. It's the after part of it. He needs to play that persona and needs to appease the fans.
No, you're absolutely right. Ref jumps in. All he had to do was start wailing his arms around, regardless of what he thought. But I think you're right. You hit the nail on the head. He was ready for this to be over. 12 rounds, that's a long time in the ring. I know it's only 36 minutes, but it's a long time, especially when you're facing the best fighter of our generation. And as he said, in the beginning, I was hitting Floyd. Then in the middle rounds, Floyd would get his gloves in there, and he was taking a lot of my power punches away from me. And I think it got to the point where, he felt, hey, I did a heck of a job, but it just, I couldn't finish the show. I couldn't get the job done. And I don't know if he had enough steam in him, to be honest with you, even if the ref let it go.
Who's the greatest boxer of all time, in your opinion?
Oh, man. There's not much video on Sugar Ray Robinson, but from everyone I talked to, Sugar Ray Robinson at welterweight was by far the best. So I'd have to say Sugar Ray Robinson. There's videos of him as middleweight where he's, flat out amazing. But at welterweight, they said he was something else. Now, if you want to ask me my point of view, watching in person, man, it's hard to go away from Muhammad Ali, but I might have to say Joe Louis. I might have to go Joe Louis there.
Fair enough. The big thing I was getting at on Friday, and you could probably insert the few names that you just mentioned and people would be okay with it, but I was using Ali because to me, Ali's the greatest of all time, but I'll trust your insight on that. And even, Yuri Foreman said there's a few of them. It's tough to even make the greatest of all time argument for just one of them. But I was annoyed, and I knew this was coming because of Twitter, that after the fight, everyone starts calling Floyd Mayweather the greatest of all time, and I just think that is foolish. He's a tremendous fighter. You're 50-0, you're 50-0, but let's not get carried away. He's not the GOAT.
No, you're 100% right. He's definitely top 25. You can top 20 even say, but to say number one all time, no way, no way. 50-0, yeah, it's great. Was he better than Rocky Marciano? No chance. Floyd, at one point in his career, walked away from the sport to go to wrestling, and he left about 5 great opponents on the table. Had he stayed with boxing and taken out those 5 guys, Antonio Margarito, he later fought Miguel Cotto, but not in his prime. I think you could make an argument for it, but no, not going to go there. Top 20, top 15, yeah, maybe the top 15. I'll even stretch that.
Great stuff, Steve. We appreciate it. Thanks so much.
All right, Zach, take care. Thank you.
Steve Zemach joining us there from the Queensberry Rules on the Zach Gelb Show. And that was a thing. And I understand. Everyone now, the hot term is, he's the GOAT. You make a good shot. He's the GOAT. You throw a good punch. He's the GOAT. Floyd Mayweather is a tremendous fighter. No one is debating that. No one will dispute that. He's 50-0. Yeah, you may not like some of the opponents that he selected, especially later on in his career, but he's not the GOAT. And someone that is not this big boxing aficionado myself could even tell you that. And I thought the people that took to Twitter and said, oh, he's the best ever, he's the GOAT, bunch of clowns. Now, with Floyd Mayweather, I don't like him. I was openly rooting for McGregor. Now, I didn't think McGregor was going to win. I picked Floyd to win by knockout in either the 8th or 9th round. I forget which one. Go back on my Twitter, at Zach Gelb. I have it there somewhere. I tweeted it out during the fight and talked about it on the air on Friday. But the people that say, oh, he's the greatest ever, just stop it. It's disrespectful to the people that Steve Zemach was talking about. But I get it. That's the catchy phrase now. Oh, he's the GOAT. He's the greatest. He's the greatest ever. But Floyd Mayweather is not the greatest boxer of all time. And I've told you before, and I'll say it again. Tremendous fighter. No one is disputing that. But I will never root for the man. And that's why I was rooting for Conor McGregor. And I don't love McGregor. McGregor can annoy you too, but Floyd Mayweather is someone that beats women. And if you read what his child wrote that one time that Deadspin did surface, it's horrifying. And he's gone to jail for it. So I can't root for a jerk like that. And all the congrats to him. Congrats on the 15-0. Congrats on all the money you make and everything. I will just never root for you. And I will never stand up and I'll never cheer you because what you've done outside of the ring. Just can't do it. Put him in whatever Hall of Fame you want. Give him any accolades you want. I'll just never like the guy because he is a bad dude. That is a misogynistic monster.